So the news that we were all kind of expecting has been made official. The Mississauga Steelheads are relocating to the city of Brampton pending league approval. So it's official according to the Steelheads, but they just need to go through the process and have the Board of Governors vote on this relocation process. I expect them to vote in favor of this. If they say no, well, then I guess it comes down to them thinking Brampton's not a suitable market for the Ontario Hockey League, but we'll cross that bridge if that happens. But right now, it does appear as though Mississauga ready to play in Brampton starting in September for the 2024-25 season. This whole rumor started just over 2 weeks ago. I did my first video talking about a potential relocation 13 days ago on the channel. And the Steelheads, they made it official with their season ticket holders last night, saying they're moving north to Brampton. It's a 10-minute difference between the Paramount Fine Food Center, where the Steelheads play right now, and the CAA Centre, where they will eventually call home. And this is actually the statement, the letter that went out to season ticket holders. And this is how it reads. We strongly believe that a relocation will allow us to not only continue to expand our reach, but also create new opportunities to engage with the team in fresh and exciting ways. The decision to move was not made lightly, and we are confident that this change will contribute to the continued growth and success of the hockey club. Mississauga will continue to be a part of our home territory. So that's the end of the statement there. So it's really, it's a tough situation for the Steelheads because they've been trying so hard in this market. Mississauga just, it's been hit and miss. They've had a couple of seasons over the last 26 years where attendance was up, but you can almost wonder if that's because of other circumstances, how they were getting the attendance. I'll go over those numbers a little bit later. But what's also interesting is how they're still focused on the city of Mississauga. So they're kind of becoming a Peel region team. So they're going to play out of the CAA Centre in Brampton. It sounds like they'll be known as the Brampton Steelheads based on the logos that have been shared online and the trademarks that were announced. But still, it's tough because the Paramount Fine Food Center, it is a beautiful rink. It's probably one of the better ones in the OHL to take in a game as a spectator. But the city of Mississauga, they were wanting to raise the rent for the team to continue to play out of the facility, and Brampton just offering them a deal they couldn't refuse. According to reports, it's a 10-year deal, 10-year lease agreement for the Steelheads to play in Brampton. And I guess they figured, why not have this commitment? Try Brampton, see what can happen, because you're not losing your season ticket holder base. You can still have that core support because the team's just moving 10 minutes up the road, basically. So you've got that. And then when you look at the history that Brampton had, the Brampton Battalion did a pretty good job on the ice. They were a competitive team. They went to the OHL championship in 2009. They lost to the Windsor Spitfires that year. So it's not as if this is a whole new thing for Brampton. It'll be interesting, though, to see how many of the core Brampton Battalion fans will come back. It'd also be really weird when the North Bay Battalion play in Brampton for the first time, because you'll have those mixed allegiances. But still, Brampton, let's look at the history. The battalion last played in Brampton March 29th, 2013. That's when the battalion lost 1-0 in overtime to the Sudbury Wolves. That was game 5 of the first round playoffs. I was actually in attendance for that game, so I was a part of the Sudbury Wolves radio broadcast crew, and it was quite the emotional game because, yeah, the Sudbury Wolves eliminating Brampton in the playoffs, but then at the end, fans came onto the ice. There was a handful of them who were diehard Brampton Battalion fans, and they stood at center ice because they knew this was it, and they didn't know when OHL hockey may return to the city of Brampton, and a lot of them, too, not really sure if they should cheer for the Mississauga team that was down the road because it was mixed emotions. You're supposed to be rivals, and then you lose your team. Do you join your rival? So I know there was a lot of that conversation going on with the fan base, and it's, looking back, that game it was so fascinating to be there because you really don't realize what you have until it's gone. And I know there's a lot of jokes about the attendance, but there's still that core fan base, and the Mississauga Steelheads have it too. There's fans who will travel all over the province to catch the Steelheads on the road. We see them here at the Saddlein Arena. They are, quite dedicated to their team. So it is nice that they're still going to be able to follow the Steelheads in Brampton, but it's kind of got to be a little bit of a mixed bag of emotions. After the battalion left in 2013, they did have the Brampton Beast of the ECHL. They were there from 2013 until 2020. And when the team folded, Patrick Brown, the mayor of Brampton, he said, I'm going to bring either AHL or OHL hockey to the city of Brampton, and he's made good on that promise. He's bringing the OHL, the Steelheads, back starting in September. So it's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens. But what's fascinating is we're not going to have an OHL team in Mississauga for the first time in 26 years. 1998, that's when the OHL decided to expand to both Brampton and Mississauga at the same time. You had the Brampton Battalion and the Mississauga Steelheads, of course, or not the Steelheads, the Mississauga Ice Dogs. The Ice Dogs, they moved in 2007 to Niagara, and then the Mississauga Majors started when Eugene Melnick brought the team from Toronto, and then Eugene Melnick selling the team to Kerr, and then he renamed it the Mississauga Steelheads, and now the Steelheads are moving to Brampton. So it's you almost need a flow chart to see the changes since 1998 in the GTA with the OHL, from the Battalion moving to North Bay, and then the Majors moving to Mississauga, and now the Steelheads moving. It's a bit of a mess, but at the same time, it's just crazy to think we're not going to have an OHL team playing at the Paramount Fine Food Center for the first time in 26 years. I know for attendance, though, if you look at the numbers, it's actually up this year compared to last season. Last season, they averaged 2,038 fans. Now they're sitting at 2,252. Mind you, there were a couple of school day games, so that you have a full building with all the students from Mississauga who attend the game, so that kind of inflates the numbers a little bit, but still, you're seeing that positive growth this season for the Steelheads. One of the best seasons for the Mississauga Steelheads attendance-wise was 2015-2016. They averaged 3,025 fans. So that's that's the highest average Mississauga had as the Steelheads. But if you look back, they did have 3,102 fans was their average in the 2010-2011 season. That was when they were the St. Mike's Majors. To note about that season, though, 2011 is when Mississauga hosted the Memorial Cup. So they saw a boost when they were hosting the national championship, but they weren't getting the sellouts. Actually, in the OHL final, when it was the Owen Sound Attack against Mississauga, Attack fans outnumbered the Mississauga fans in that championship series. So that just goes to show that the struggles were real back then as well. And then you go all the way back to the Mississauga Ice Dog days. Their best season was 2004-2005. They averaged 3,739 fans that season, which is remarkable considering where this team has been since. But you have to remember that was the year of the NHL lockout. So because there was no Toronto Maple Leafs playing that season, fans resorted to junior hockey, and the Mississauga Ice Dogs got a boost that year. So I just thought it was interesting looking at what seasons were the best for the Ice Dogs, Majors, and the Steelheads, and it's just the numbers just kept going down after it. You'd get that boost from the NHL lockout, and then the numbers would drop. You'd get a boost from them hosting the Memorial Cup, and then the numbers would drop. Then you would get a boost because the North Bay Battalion took the Brampton team, and there's a bit of a boost, but it's come back down again. So it's such a hard market to crack, trying to figure it out. But the decision, it is official. The Mississauga Steelheads are relocating to Brampton, pending league approval. So we'll wait for that vote. But at this point, everything, I think they just have to do the formal vote, and then they've released the schedule, make sure the dates work at the CAA Centre, and go from there. So the Barrie Colts, they play their final game in Mississauga next Friday. So that's February 9th. I plan to go to the game just because it's the last game for the Barrie Colts to play in the city of Mississauga. And then, of course, next year I'll try to get to a game there in Brampton because I haven't been to the Brampton rink since the final OHL game back in 2013. So fascinating times. I know there's people who feel this move won't mean much, but for the financial side of things, I think this will help the Steelheads because the city of Brampton is probably helping them out quite a bit on this lease agreement. But does it really grow the game? Are you going to have a higher attendance being at the CAA Centre? Could this team do better in another market like Cornwall, Chatham? I've seen a couple of comments saying bring the team to York Region, Newmarket, or Vaughan. That's actually an interesting market that I'm surprised the OHL hasn't gone back to since the Newmarket Royals relocated to the Sarnia back in the 90s. But that's for another discussion. So right now, Mississauga, they are officially moving to Brampton. So let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on the relocation. Do you think it's going to succeed in Brampton? Where else would you like to see an OHL team relocate to? I'd love to see the comments and interaction. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.